what I love to do is I go right to connecting on the Instagram live, and then for those Instagram people, they can follow us. It's a picture of the picture, but I think we can do it okay, can't we?
Yep, works good for me.
Nice. Black Island, right? Or Block Island?
Block Island.
I've never been to Block Island, or not
It
yet
is.
anyway.
It is beautiful for sure. You should definitely go.
Is this where you live, or is this your summertime or some summertime R&R?
Summertime R&R, but my partner and I both work remote, so we travel full time. So we're headed to Europe for the fall for 3 months, and then we'll be in South Africa for the winter.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. Alex Rhodes, right?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Right. Well, it's really a pleasure to have you on. And I've been watching your stuff, very inspired. And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to the red meat side.
Oh, well, I think I've always been on the red meat side, but I was diagnosed at 20 years old. I'm 27 now, almost 28, with hypothyroidism. And I remember asking the doctor sort of like, is this a forever thing? You know, am I going to have to take Synthroid for the rest of my life? And she was like, yeah, you know, pretty much you're on it. You're in it for the long haul. And so with that, for a few years, my symptoms got better and so on and so forth. And I started kind of bodybuilding because I think there was never a time where I felt like I could lose weight, or, I really struggled with, shifts in my thyroid and stuff like that. And so when I finally got to a good place, I moved to Tulum and I started bodybuilding. And that was a ton of fun until I had a seizure in 2021. So just last year, it was a 1-year anniversary this April. And so I had a grand mal seizure in the middle of Mexico. And I am personally convinced, because the doctors, of course, could find no cause. So I am convinced that it was not necessarily my diet, but I was on Nature at the time, and I was on like 180 milligrams, which was absorbently high. Yeah. And my sodium bottomed out is what has caused the seizure. So I'm assuming that, either my adrenals were fatigued or, just something along those lines. And, of course, not one person was like, hey, have you thought about changing your diet or increasing your fat intake? I was bodybuilding and only, I was probably eating 60 grams of fat a day, and for me, that's like low. I'm
Right.
like, oh man, I gotta get some fat in me. But and so that is what sort of led me on the journey to try to get off my medication. And so I tried, just cleaning up my diet more. But the thing was, I was fit, I was active, I was eating right, I barely ate dessert. Like, I didn't eat refined sugars or even flour for that matter. And so, yeah, I ended up crossing paths with a woman who was animal based, and she just sort of introduced me to the lifestyle, and I really started to buy in. Like day 3, I felt amazing. I was just like, this is incredible. And by day 7, I was off my medicine completely.
Wow.
It would give me anxiety when I would take it. So yeah, that's sort of like how I got from A to B.
What's your background? What's your, what type of work have you been in, and how'd you, is this your full-time sort of coaching, cheerleading, and really helping healing?
Just 1 second.
Oh yeah, good.
My dog is running away.
Oh no, we're good. Go do it. We're whole.
Oh, she came back. Back.
Oh, good.
There she is.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Pia.
What's your dog's name?
Her name is Ella.
Hi, Ella. All right. Nice. Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Anyways.
Oh no. So what's your, again, did you go from one thing to this thing, or were you always sort of, it sounds like you were in the health and wellness and
Yeah.
workout and things like that, or
So I actually started, I guess my fitness journey in high school. I weighed about 265, 270. And, I remember I got made fun of my freshman year for being fat, and that sort of changed my life. I went on this, like, I went to see, a nutritionist, dietitians, and trying to get all of that sorted out. And, that's really, so I guess, yes, I have my NASM. I've been in the personal training industry. I've been a CrossFit instructor. I've sort of been all of it. But by trade, I am a software engineer.
awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yes.
So are you still full time in that business and sort of adventuring in the health and wellness world still? Is that
Yeah, I'm venturing more into health and wellness now. So I just recently quit my full time to, live life a little, but also to venture into, I think animal based really inspired me in carnivore. I'm essentially carnivore with a little fruit. But so that has really changed my life. It's inspired me to get, to do something with my passions, which are health and wellness for sure. Fitness, mindset, mentality, that stuff. So that's what's going on.
and what's your particular dietary habits? Can you share that a little bit, and what you're doing that you find works?
Oh yeah. So, what I find works for me is, my dietary habits usually consist of fruit in minimal capacities. It just depends on sort of like what my calorie expenditure is for that day. So if I have a leg day, I'll eat more fruit, right? So I eat fruit before and after my workouts, and of course with protein. And yeah, and then I eat one big meal at the end of the day with, a huge ribeye because yum. And that's, my diet. It's simple, you know. It's easy. When I travel, there's always something available, whether that's fruit or, um, a hamburger patty somewhere. It just makes life. It just honestly, it is so simple. It's like, why didn't I do this before? It just
Right,
makes
right.
life easy. Yeah.
And so you're off all your drugs, your seizures are
Mhm.
gone, and you still see your doctors.
No, I switched to a holistic practitioner, and she has been excellent. I still, there are still times where I even feel like she holistically still treats the symptom instead of the root cause. So we get into that a little bit, but as far as I don't know that I've needed. It was interesting because she does some kind of, she like pokes your finger with it, and it's like an energy reading
Yep,
type of
yep, yep.
thing. And so I've never gotten a clean bill of health from her. She sends me home with so much crap, so many supplements to take that it's unreal. And then this last time that I went in to visit her, she was just like, I have no complaints. Everything looks amazing. You're not anemic anymore. Your thyroid looks good. Like, so it's truly been, a life changing situation. But yeah, I've definitely not gone back to a traditional doctor.
What's your thoughts on how we can sort of make the changes? My belief is that seizures are all caused by plants. Plants cause
Yeah.
the seizures, inflammation from the plants, and a lack of eating fatty meat, which is really critical. But what's your sense on how do we make the changes in the world to the modern medical system? Any thoughts on that?
That's a tough pill to swallow. I think I think it really starts with reanalyzing the curriculum and getting some real science behind what is going into traditionally trained MDs or DOs. I think it's really just a complete overhaul of, what our typical beliefs are, like, saturated fat is terrible and red meat's going to give you a heart attack, and, all of these things that people just have just believed all of this time, and I think it really starts there, because you have doctors who are like, oh yeah, you just need to eat grains.
Right.
What?
Right.
Like
Right.
what does that grain do for me?
Well, does your partner, is he in the carnivore space also? Is
Um, she
she okay?
is,
Sorry about that.
no,
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
fine. Nope,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
fine.
He or she.
She is, yes, in the carnivore space. She's not like active like I am, as far as like a big proponent of like switching to the lifestyle, but she's carnivore with me, and she's
Nice.
a great support, a great support.
And where do you put sort of the exercise part of your journey in your health and wellness? How do you use that in inspiring people, and how do you feel it plays a role in this?
I feel like, the fitness aspect of what I do is, I always feel like I want to inspire people to just move their body. My preferred choice of moving my body just so happens to be weightlifting, so if you're I also don't believe you should have, I mean, I guess I do, to an extent, believe that you should have physical body goals, but I think that those are already met once you meet a mental goal, or a spiritual goal, a holistic, like, wellness goal. And then the body comes along when it's meant to come along. And so I always try to tell people and inspire people to, like, you don't have to look like me. You don't have to lift weights. You can do anything. You can bike, you can run, you can swim, you can play racquetball, whatever floats your boat. Um, so the fitness aspect is, I just always want people to, number one, nourish themselves, and number two, do something that they enjoy. Whether that's, you bike over to the ferry and take it to Block Island, and then you know what I mean, you bike around, you stop, you eat, whatever it is, do what you enjoy, but get out in the sun, move your body. It's like it's simple.
Any particular mindful practices that you do or you recommend? And I think, for me, I think it's really critical. Probably the number one is some spiritual faith journey, but it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be religion. Anything you like to talk about or in your journey?
Oh, let's see. I mean, for me, I think they're so habitual now that I don't even realize that they're spiritual practices. But I think a huge part of any journey that you go on is really spending a lot of time with yourself in the present moment. Like really practicing, whether that's just sitting down and staring at flowers for 5 minutes, or not picking up your phone for an hour in the morning so you can just, like, clear your mind and just be where you are, be in the body that you have. I think bringing awareness and love around your space it's remarkable. You really don't have any idea until you just sit down with yourself, like, what you're capable of, what you can achieve, because you're so busy running around doing other things that you're distracted from, what is yourself, so definitely connecting.
And if you can talk to the 270-pound younger you,
Yeah.
any wisdom you'd partake on her now?
Oh, so many things. I would probably, my biggest wisdom to my 270-pound self would be, enjoy the journey, you know, enjoy every moment of it, enjoy the failures. We're human. We are going to fail every single day. Like, if I were to kid myself, like, oh, I will never eat another pastry in my life. Like don't
Right.
set yourself up for that kind of failure. That's not my personal practice. It's not that I just go eat pastries. It's not a part of my life. My lifestyle is carnivore and animal based. But, to say that I'm going to be in Europe in 10 years and, looking out on the sunset and having an amazing experience with my partner, that I'm, going to turn down a bite of a croissant, I don't know. They can't tell you that answer.
Well, so I mean, you sound a little like me. These things they're not in and of themselves harmful. It's
Yeah,
probably that we just overeat all of this stuff
absolutely.
as our biggest problem. And,
Absolutely.
and then we're told certain things are healthy and certain things are not healthy. And it's a confusion. I mean,
Yeah.
and even as a doctor, we doctors are confused and can't quite figure it out at all.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any inspiring? You mentioned an animal based someone that mentioned to you and brought you and changed your life. Any particular people you focus on in these days, or books that you recommend to those out there listening and learning?
Yes. I mean, your page is completely inspiring. 100% I recommend yours. And, Carnivore MD is also just a great resource for like why things work the way they worked, like, what outlooks to change. And the Carnivore Code, I could not, it's an amazing book. And, yeah, I mean, there aren't just a lot of, because I feel like I'm still so like baby new in the space that I'm discovering new pages every single day. Um, so there's a girl that I find really inspiring. Her handle's Not Fat, Not Skinny, and she is incredible. She lives like a primal lifestyle, and I find her stuff really, really inspiring. So yeah.
So you quit your day job,
Uh-huh.
and so what was the reaction from most of those in your space on what are you doing? Are you sane?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that anybody thinks that I'm sane, but I don't know that I've ever been called sane. Honestly, with my personality and just who I am, I don't know that anyone was that surprised, because I'm pretty impulsive, and whatever I feel like is right in that moment is exactly what I do. And I feel like that leaves me in a place where I have no regrets in life. I can always go back and be a software engineer, but I may
Yeah.
never get the opportunity to dive into an animal based or carnivore diet like I am right now. I may never get the opportunity again.
So on your travels around the world, it sounds like you and your partner are really excited about traveling and meeting new people and going to new places. What's your expectations or non-expectations of these journeys?
That's a great question. We literally always say to each other, no expectations. I do not know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to go see. Whatever each day brings and wherever I adventure to is just exactly where I go. And I love living life that way because it's just so much sweeter than, I'm not a planner, but I think that expectations and, just even around like traveling and what you're going to see and what you're going to do can sometimes make the travel not so sweet, because you're expecting one thing and then you get another, because, travel does not always cooperate with you.
And does is it Ella your dog
Yes.
goes everywhere too?
She goes everywhere. Yep.
And is Ella a carnivore or an animal
Uh,
based mostly?
she is mostly, yes. I mean, if we have access to it, she pretty much eats what I eat. If I'm at home with my parents or whatever, she'll nibble on some dog food because they have dogs. But
Right.
when she's with me, she eats off my plate. If I'm eating ribeye, she's eating ribeye.
So are you in your coaching world? Is it one-on-one? Is it group? Is it online? Is it in person? How are you sort of inspiring? I mean, your stuff is inspiring online. I can tell you that. I love
Oh,
watching
thank
your
you.
stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely, it's online and one-on-one. Uh, I'm a hard coach. I tell you the truth. It's not so much that I'm a mean coach. I don't sugarcoat things. But so I really, I enjoy it, and it's primarily online.
You pour the fat on it,
I do. I pour all
right?
the fat on it. Uh-huh.
And in what you're doing, who's your primary? I'm going to ask age group. I guess that's first because it's where's your age group in your community that you're teaching?
Yeah, my age group primarily ranges from, like, let's say 20 to 40.
And is it for most of us? I want to look better, I want to feel better, or I just want to get healthy.
Yeah, I think I want to get healthy. I want to feel better. I definitely, I don't base my goals around looks, and I don't encourage any client to do that either. Um, because sometimes, those goals, it's just not enough, but what is enough is your health, like, is how you feel every day. Like, do you wake up depressed? You know what I mean? Do you wake up and want to go back to bed? Are you tired? Are you hungry all day? That none of that seems appealing nor fun. So it's
You,
like, if you can wake up energized, why not?
yeah, what do you think is the greatest sort of holdup for most of us, right? Why do we get so hung up on our worries and our fears and our, it's I think it's the hardest part is to just get over our brain
Yeah,
and just get in the boat and get moving, right?
yeah, yeah. I think the hardest part is that we don't practice. We don't practice doing things we're scared of doing. So it seems like this huge mountain to climb, when in all reality, you could have just taken one step a day to get to the top.
We're
I
we're
think, oh, go
we're,
ahead.
we're not practicing hard.
Yes, we're not
We
practicing hard.
we're afraid of hard, and
Hmm.
we sit with the couch,
Yep.
and or we're locked up wherever we are, and just getting and exploring the world. When did you start traveling? Is that something you've been doing
Oh,
all your life, or is that newer?
it's newer. I lived in Mexico for about 3 years, and so we traveled around Mexico. But and I mean, we visited, other countries like South Africa last year and stuff like that. But this is my first European tour where I'm like, okay, we're staying 1 month one place, 1 month another, and then 1 month a third place. So, but I have been traveling, I guess, for about 3 years, 3.5.
Are you are you going to be documenting your journeys in a way that we can all sort of be traveling with you, and and,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely. I'm working on I know I've been working with my assistant to just like dial in, like get camera stuff right. And, I'm sure you'll see my content completely evolve over the next, 3 months. And so it's going to be a journey. So bear with me, everyone. It's going to be a journey. But because I'm used to filming like on a camera and, traveling, we're backpacking, carry on. So we're minimizing our set.
it's all evolution, and I think maybe that's
Mhm.
the challenge that I've found. It's also like, well, I'm doing it wrong, and I don't know if I want to put this out there, and it sounds like so wrong, and isn't that where the real art comes from, in doing it
Yeah.
wrong?
Yep. Yep. And fixing it. We're constantly evolving and tweaking things and making them better. And that's one thing I always say to people is 1% better. Just be better. one thing, one thing a day that you wouldn't ordinarily do, that you are sort of scared to do, whether that's, let's say you're single, go to a movie alone. You know what I mean? Go sit at a restaurant alone. You know, kind of like venture out and do these things that you are not comfortable with, like that makes you feel uncomfortable. And then eventually you're going to get to a place where you're like, why would I ever be uncomfortable going to sit at a restaurant by myself?
So,
You know,
so, so part of your one piece of advice is do something you're afraid to do.
100%. Do
Yeah.
shit that scares you. Yeah.
And yet coaches and cheerleaders are critical in this. Did you have a coach and cheerleader that helped you through this journey, or is it what was?
I feel like I've had, multiple facets of, people who have helped me through my journey, for sure. But, sometimes I think that even coaches that I've had, like, let's say my bodybuilding coach, something that I really learned from her is how I didn't want to coach. I've learned beautiful things over the years, from people of like, it's more of like, oh, I wouldn't want to be treated like that as an athlete or as a client or whatever you are. But, what I would appreciate is honesty, is being frank and blunt and telling the truth and, also being kind and forgiving them if they, step out. It's not a big deal. We're not perfect, like I said earlier. And yeah, so I mean, I have had coaches and mentors through the years that have, inspired me and got me to where I am.
And resistance work or cardiac work. Do you have any particular preferences, or what's your recommendations, and what do you do?
I mean, I think resistance work always. I think cardio is important. Cardiac work is important, but I think, you know, weightlifting has so many incredible health benefits. Retaining that mass, especially as you get older, is is just important. I see a lot of, because I'm more like, I do this because when I get old, I want to be young. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to travel. And, how I envision that happening is, how do I walk upstairs and my legs don't burn? It's because I weight train.
Well, my brother Ray's birthday, he's 70. Let's see, I'm 66. He's like 74 or 5 today. He's a major swimmer, biker, runner, waiter. It's just and moving and I know for me, for 10 years, I really didn't do very much, but I do my weights and writing. Resistance, I think, is critical. I agree
Yeah.
with you because just getting up out of bed or getting out of a chair and getting out of the car. I mean, these simple things like riding a bike, you got to keep moving, keep
Yeah,
moving.
absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
how to keep us plus 60 people moving?
Hmm.
How can, because I think young is inspiring to old. And how
Yeah.
do we get young to keep inspiring to old and joining in the mix?
Well, I don't know if you have ever seen her or heard of her, but her name's Train with Joan. She's like 72 or 3. And she essentially bodybuilds, but her daughter was my coach for the longest time. And I just think that number one is, I would never turn down a training session with a 75-year-old. You never know what they're capable of. That I don't think that age, defines your capabilities. I hear a lot of people, particularly in Oklahoma, where I'm from, they're like, oh, I'm too old to do that, or I can't do that. And, honestly, those are just excuses. But it's just really interesting that the dynamic that we have, like for me, I want to see more elderly people in the gym. Like I would love to, you know, have training sessions with older people. One, because you're wiser, but two, because I love to see people living, you know, even when they're still 70, you know, when they're 70, when they're 80, you know, I like to see people living life.
We're inspired. And I think so. Coaching cheerleaders. I mean, I love watching Baker and Chafee and so many others and yourself and watching people do their workouts because then
Mm-hmm.
your brain can see the possibilities and get inspired to do it more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think all of us need a coach, a cheerleader, either one on one or group stuff because with that, we all feel alone in some way. But then, that's why I love this online, all of this stuff. I mean, look at you're on Block Island. Here I am in upstate New York, Skinny Atlas, and we're communicating, connecting with people everywhere. And it's just like we're all together in this amazing group and band
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
What I don't know. For some reason, this carnivore meat-based group just seems like the best one I've ever sort of belonged to. And now maybe it's my bias in the moment. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I think that, you know, I think that the primal group or this animal-based carnivore group is just really inspired. And, you know, to me, it's a community of people who are thriving. You know, you have other communities that are full of, you know, people who, like, let's just say, are baseline not nourished. You know, there's, you know, so it's just really inspiring in the carnivore group because you have so many people who feel amazing. You know, they get on and they look amazing and they feel good and they're genuinely experiencing joy just because they feel good.
And I was in pretty good. I mean, I was practicing a lot of mindfulness and exercise for years, standard Mediterranean for years. But I had the arthritis, psoriasis, bowel bleeding, kidney stones, migraines. I had it all. I took all the
Mhm.
drugs and all the stuff. And then I like one day this, I was a YouTube channel. Some guy was ripped, meat only, everything gone. I'm like, I'll try it. And 1 month. And I've been doing it for almost 12 years now. And I am like, fuck, it's just like radical. And now,
Yes.
now I do French fries from time to time and ice cream
Uh-huh.
from time to time, but I
Yep.
don't do fruit very often. Tell us about, but I think that for each, because some people are more allergic to some things than others. Some people
Yes.
are allergic to peanuts and certain fruits. My daughter would die to a banana and an avocado. But do you have any particular fruit that you kind of stick to, or if you're eating a carb, what is your sort of go-to carbohydrate?
My go-to carbohydrate is usually mango. But I like all like tropical fruits. They're my favorites. So mangoes, bananas, pineapples, papaya. Uh, but I also, you know, occasionally do like locally grown, like strawberries and blueberries. But yeah, those are my carbohydrates of choice for the most part.
Do you do vegetables at all, or you really stay away from those completely?
Uh-huh. I really stay away completely. And I don't, you know, occasionally I'm like, you know what, a salad sounds nice. But that's when has anyone ever been like, you know, a salad sounds good. But, you
I
know,
called nature's
sometimes.
I called nature's toilet paper. Salad.
Uh-huh.
Salad is deadly. I agree with you. Fruit from time to time, and some people can tolerate their fruit a little bit better, but it doesn't sound like you eat large amounts. It sounds
Mm-mm.
like you stick to the meat based is your meal, and you'll
Yes.
snack on the fruit from time to time.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I still probably eat under 100 grams carbs, and I'm 6 foot, 188.
And you feel fantastic.
Yeah, I feel great. I feel amazing. I do feel you know, I did go fully carnivore there for just a little while, and I felt amazing on it too. But with my training, it did sort of take a toll as far as like strength wise.
Oh,
But I just felt like I just needed some, like that, just that little bit of energy. So I really don't even, after being carnivore completely, I really only started to incorporate fruit before and after my workouts. And then the rest of the day, I am carnivore all the way.
do you have eating windows? Do you talk about fasting at all in your counseling and coaching?
I don't, I think it's just highly dependent on the person and, whatever works for you. I know that I personally, like, I haven't eaten yet this morning. It's, noon. And I wake up and I do that pretty naturally. I eat with my hunger instead of trying to base it on like a specific cycle. And usually I encourage clients to do the same. If you wake up and you're starving, well, it might be a good idea to go ahead and start your window. But if and that's the same thing. If you eat, if you're hungry at 8 o'clock, it's not going to hurt you to eat some meat.
You don't have to be so crazy about it. Would you sort
Right.
of like this isn't like, oh my God, you didn't do that, right?
Yes. I do have people on my page from time to time who, they're like, you should try one meal a day. And I'm like, I do naturally cycle through those phases. It's not a commitment so much that I'm, you know, planning my entire day around my one meal. It's just like, I may have one meal today, or I may not. And I don't think that the cycles of nature were the same. I don't think that even ancestrally, we were not out, foraging for food and eating at the same time every single day. Or, we sometimes our windows weren't 16 hours. Sometimes we did have fruit to snack on. Sometimes we did wake up early and we were hungry and we probably grabbed something. Sometimes we didn't. So I definitely don't think there's like a right or wrong way for nutrient timing. I think we get hungry and we should eat.
This is a changed world. And when I went to medical school in the 80s, you had to get accepted to medical school. You had to pay a lot of money. You had to go to the library to read the journals to get the knowledge and all the books. But today it's everywhere. And you don't need a doctor, an MD, a DO, a PA. You don't need any of those things anymore because ultimately health and wellness is in the hands of the community,
Yep.
which is really where it belongs. And we're ancient times, that's where it was. But then it's like, well, you have to be a licensed dietitian, you have to be a licensed this or that, which
Yeah.
really the world of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and more in social media is really about social medicine. And people like you and others are really, really inspiring because really it's about we're all attracted to someone and different, don't you? So like you're with your partner, I'm with my partner, we're all with our partners, but it's because we're all meant to be different.
Right. Yeah. Autonomy is something that I definitely I touch on specifically with clients who have partners. I'm like, you have to be autonomous. You have to have your own thing.
Yeah.
You are an individual human. And if this feels right, make this your thing. But whatever feels good. But yes, autonomy is. Autonomy in community is remarkable.
And we are a community, and without that, we wouldn't survive. And currently we need the what do you do again? Your computer programmer,
Yep.
software engineer. Sorry about that.
No,
Yeah,
that's okay.
we wouldn't be doing this without you, right?
Right.
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 And that's the beauty. What's your thoughts on sleep and naps and getting plenty of rest?
Yeah. Well, I think that I definitely get 8 or 9 hours of sleep at night. Because you recover in your sleep and I like to be recovered. But I I highly encourage naps. I also think that that's a natural like rhythmic cycle. for me, in a performance sense, you know, if I feel like I need to take a nap, it is highly likely that, number one, I'm not, you know, recovered from the workouts that I've been doing that week, or I need some kind of additional, um, you know, recovery, right? So I think that, you know, you should definitely sleep with your natural cycle, but I think that some people can sleep 6 hours and they're fine. They pop up out of bed and they're like, you know, this is great. I don't. I sort of miss the part in modern medicine where it says that we're all the same, you know, and that we all have the same sleep requirements, and we all have the same nutritional requirements, and we all have the same, you know, we're not robots. So I definitely, you know, I'm as rhythmic as I can be with, you know, my surroundings and my life. If I'm tired, I go to sleep. If I'm not, I don't, you know, and sometimes I sleep 7 hours and sometimes I sleep 9. So I think that that's a very natural thing. I do not like to. Bodybuilding taught me to not be so rigid around, you know, certain habits. Like, of course, yes, you need your sleep for recovery, right? But I don't need to force myself to sleep 9 hours if I'm recovered in 7. Uh, so
And what's your workout routine for the week? Do you have on and off days and for the weightlifting?
yes, I most generally lift 5 days a week, but there are weeks where I only lift 4 days a week. My program, I take a deload week every 4th week, so I'll do 2 sets of heavy weights. Like, they're my heaviest weeks, but they're the least sets, like the least amount of sets. And so, yep, 5 days a week, most generally, sometimes 4.
Do you work in a
Um,
gym or do you work at your home?
and a
Where's your
gym.
the gym? Yeah. Any
Hmm.
particular gym you want to give it a shout out?
I mean, I'm all over all the
Got it.
time.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been to some awesome gyms. Mystic Fitness has been great here in Connecticut.
And so on your travels, I imagine you just, you're doing a lot of backpacking, it sounds like. Is that what so you'd be
Yep.
carrying a heavy load and still stopping at the gym?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The gym. We plan our trips around the gym.
Ah, okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
how do you plan your meals around your travels too? Do you have these planned out, or you've got it figured out already enough that you can find it anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can find it anywhere. I do try to be as prepared as I can, as far as just like having a quick snack, you know, whether that's like some dried mango, or you know, having some ground beef or something in a to go, you know, container. But most generally, I like my food hot. So most generally, I can usually find a restaurant anywhere that has, you know, something that I can have. So, uh, you know, benefits of carnivore, it's pretty easy.
And your steak, your favorite sounds like ribeye.
Oh yes, 100 ribeye, New York strip. I like it all.
And
I
how do
like
you
it
like
all.
them? How do you like them cooked?
Oh, rare.
Rare.
Yeah.
Do you do any add-ons to the steak besides salt or butter,
Um,
or none of
usually
those?
usually just salt and butter are my go-tos. I don't use pepper, or, you know, sometimes if I'm, you know, feeling crazy, I'll use some seasonings, but I try to steer clear for the most part.
And in the weightlifting world, do you recommend supplements or high protein as sort of like you got to make sure you add this or that?
Yes, I think generally, you know, your protein intake should be, you know, 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 188, I should at least have 188 grams protein a day.
Okay, and where do you focus on the fat? Is that or it's in the bodybuilding world, it's a little bit more focused on the protein to build the muscle versus the fat to what's your opinion on that?
Well, in the bodybuilding world, you know, what really increases like hypertrophy is carbohydrates. So, you know, like your fruits, for me, that's why I eat fruit, specifically is from, like muscular hypertrophy. But, I think fat obviously is so important. And I can't even express to women how hormonally important it is for you to eat enough fat. Fat is literally what fuels everything that we do. Me sitting here, I'm not using carbs to sit on this bench, but I'm using fat to fuel my day. And so I think, part of chronic fatigue is women aren't getting enough fat, in their diets, and they're having all these carbs, and, carbs aren't giving you energy while you're sitting and while you're walking. Carbs give you energy when you are weightlifting, when you are doing more intense endurance activity or something along those lines. So I always tell people, I think it's like I eat about 150 grams of fat a day, probably. So a pretty solid amount.
So you add the butter, you get the fattiest cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a butter eater throughout the day, or you stick to add it to the steak and things like that?
Yeah, well, if I homemade my butter, I could just eat it with a spoon.
Yeah.
But I usually just stick to steaks, and I love raw dairy as well. So, I love raw cream. I could drink it out of a bottle.
And you tolerate it pretty well. You're not having any allergic reactions that some people may have to cow's milk or other milk and things like that.
Yes, but I always suggest goat's milk too if people have, any adverse reaction to cow's milk. But sometimes the inevitable is you just don't tolerate milk at all.
Where do you put fish and chicken? Are you sort of sometimes, never?
Almost never. I mean, I tell people all the time, I don't eat anything that's smaller than I am.
Okay.
I want to be not a cow, but I want to be strong. I want to be built, so I usually generally steer clear of chicken. Not, I don't think it's as nutritionally dense as, let's say its counterpart, which would be beef. But I also I'm not a huge fish fan to begin with. So
I agree with you. I'm not a fish or chicken fan. I think there are no ancient civilizations that hunted chicken, and certainly fishing. And I say fish and chicken stink quickly, but beef only gets better with age.
Right. Absolutely.
That is really it. Do you buy local? Where do you go? Local farms for your meat and things like that, and raw milk?
Yes, I do everything as local as I possibly can. So usually I go to farmers markets or, Google searching, I usually can find grass-fed, grass-finished beef somewhere.
And in this keto carnivore, I don't know, where do you use keto as a word in yours, or you strictly use animal based, which probably is, I mean, keto is made up anyway, but animal based is real. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I don't use the term keto just because I don't think that I don't support keto per se, because I know that a lot of people will, just go to Walmart and buy keto bread. Well, that, the ingredients list is, I can't even read it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I primarily stay, which, I guess animal based would not be considered a ketogenic diet. It could be, but it's also more considered low carb instead of no carb. But yeah, so I'm not a keto fan.
Well, so thank you for the time you've given all of us today. We really appreciate you, Alex. But where can people find you?
At Alex Animal Based on Instagram. We're working on other platforms, but that's what we've got right now.
And any last moment inspirations for all of us out there at every and any age to sort of yeah, she's got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think any age, I'm a big proponent. Just be yourself. Whatever that is, wherever that leads, just do that.
You use the word autonomy.
Mhm.
And that sounds really important in community, right? We're all autonomous in so many ways, but we're working together. And really appreciate you taking the time today. And Ella, right? The poodle.
Yes.
What is Ella? Ella.
Ella's a poodle.
Ah, awesome. And you guys, you and your partner enjoy the journey. So great. We'll follow you on at Alex
Animal
animal
based.
based
Hmm.
all the time. But again, just look at Alex. She's amazing. God bless. Thank you so much for joining today. And sorry for
Absolutely.
the technical difficulties on my
Oh
Instagram, but
yeah.
it just is what it is. You got to enjoy it.
You got to enjoy it. That's perfectly fine.
Imperfect in so many ways. So God bless and thank you so much.
You too. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
everyone.
having me. All right. Bye.
All right, Alex. God bless.